Welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Let's cue the intro. This is the #1 podcast to learn marketing strategies for your board game. Whether you're just starting on your first game or an experienced designer, you've come to the right place. My name is Nalin, and let's talk marketing for your game. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. In this podcast, I interview creators who have successfully funded their ideas on Kickstarter to learn more about their journey to launch and help you formulate your own plan. I also bring on experts in the tabletop space to talk about all the facets of marketing and building your game publishing company. If you've been listening for a while now, you know that I hold nothing back. So in these episodes, be prepared to hear me ask the hard questions and really get down to the finer details. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Today, we're lucky to have two people, David and Justin, on the show, and I'm so excited for everything that they have to share with us today. So, welcome you both to the show.
Thanks for having us, Nalin. This is David.
Awesome.
This is Justin.
Awesome. Well, I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and also about the game before we get into the nitty-gritty details. How about David, you can get us started, and then we'll hand off the mic to Justin, too.
Sure. So I guess it's really about the story of us two and the broader family. Coozies Games is a group of cousins, a story about a group of cousins coming together to play board games. And Justin could talk about his love for board games, but he was really the one that introduced the seven of us to board games. And we just started playing it during all sorts of family gatherings, birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, grandma's birthday. And then one day, Justin had a bright idea to say, hey, we play so many board games, maybe we should start a board game company and create one. And I got excited and thought, that sounds like a great idea. And I joined him to partake on this 2-year journey of creating By the Vote.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the second part for us, also was going into this important, election year and thinking about politics as something that people should really take a part in. And we wanted to kind of bring that to life and use the game as a way to kind of remind people that they should, partake in this important decision, but also use this opportunity to kind of teach people about the Electoral College and really reach out to different kinds of kids and families and really tell that story about how elections are important for them too.
Yeah. And so the game itself, or By the Vote, it's just a quick, fun 15-minute bidding game where candidates try to run for president. You're part of a new political party. You start off with just $10 million of ad spending dollars, your budget. And every round, there's just states that are flipped up. It starts with 3 state cards flipped up, and you essentially spend your campaign dollars on the states, basically ad spend, and the candidate who spends the most ads on a state wins the state. So if win or not, that money spent is gone. Like real life, big ad networks don't like to give refunds, and so we're trying to mimic that kind of element in the game. And there's a bunch of fun stuff within the game, like swing states, like in the real thing, where if you win a swing state, the momentum of your election shifts in your favor. For By the Vote, you get to kind of sway or steal a state from another candidate. So the point of the objective of the game is just to score the most amount of electoral votes by collecting the states, and the person who wins the most electoral votes becomes the party's nominee. Second place person becomes their running mate, and together, if they score over 270 points, they win the game. So there's both a little bit of cooperation with a ton of competition.
Nice. I love how this came from like a family kind of gathering, right? Cousins playing games, and you're all like, hey, let's just make a game together, and getting together to make something not only kind of fun but also educational in the same time. So this theme that you're working on, election, and this even the game is called By the Vote, right? It's a really kind of contentious topic, especially this year, and we were touching on this earlier too, Justin. Which makes me really curious. How did you end up doing that pre-launch marketing? How did you kind of drum up excitement for the game? Because you were funded really quickly. So I'd love to kind of really dig into that for this particular, theme for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we thought about marketing and thinking about that pre-launch stage, I think we started off by going to conferences and really learned a lot about how people market a board game before pre-launch. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for us really was about, that people spend, 6 months to a year doing pre-launch and pre-launch marketing. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for us really was when we went out to a conference called Metatopia in New Jersey. Folks there really said, hey, every conference you go to, and every person you talk to about the game is the beginning of your pre-launch and your marketing. And so for us it was really trying to go out to as many conferences as we can. To in the beginning was testing the game, understanding what makes the game fun and how we can make it better, and testing out the mechanics. But then at the end, it was really about how do we get out to more people and get people to really understand the game and really talk about it, and drown up more hype for it. One thing I think that really worked really well for us is really getting the surveys out to people, because we have the benefit of By the Vote being a shorter game, like a 15-minute game. We were able to play with over 500 people just in a couple months of marketing, or a couple months of conferences and playing with people. And I think those survey results really came in handy, because when we were thinking about whether we should launch on a Kickstarter and whether it was going to be successful, I think really turning to those survey results and seeing that I think it was 86% of people wanted to play again, and people were giving it great results in our surveys. I think that really helped us a lot in just understanding that we really have something cool here, and not only is it something that is a little about politics and a little bit edgy, but I think that there isn't really games out there about politics and elections, and we wanted to kind of bring a game like that into the world. So
yeah. So sorry, David, did you have anything you wanted to add too?
I mean, in short, we just went to NaniCon, Metatopia, Grand Night, GamerCon, PAX, and just hustled. We just got as many people to play the game, and with the survey, we collected essentially email database of 500 people. So, and I think you rightfully pointed out, Nalin, that the election politics theme was a great uphill battle. I'm happy to dig into that, but so we just hustled.
Yeah, there's actually a few things that you both pointed out that I really want to dig into. You talked about going to a lot of conventions, right? So a lot of people who are listening too, they're interested in doing this once we can go to conventions again, and if conventions go from online to offline again.
Yeah.
What kind of things did you do to grab people, get them to try the game, and just kind of break the ice?
Yeah, I think Justin pointed out that one of the taglines when we were approaching a whole bunch of strangers is that this is a 15-minute game. The name sounds a little edgy. Maybe there's a little spark of curiosity. But hey, look, it's only 15 minutes and it's only 3 minutes to learn. What else you got to do when you're walking around the con looking for something to do? So I think there's that kind of low bar of commitment, and if things go south, it's only 15 minutes. But as Justin pointed out, the large majority, almost everybody, if you will, enjoyed the game once they sat down and played through it.
Nice. Yeah, I really like that you guys capitalized on, I guess, the unique points of the game to kind of grab people and hook their attention. And you were really kind of, going to get people and grab people rather than just kind of like waiting on the sidelines. Because a lot of people kind of go and they kind of wait on the sidelines, right? So I hear in your voice that y'all were really hustling, right? Really going out there and grabbing people.
We were hustling. It was almost shameless marketing and approaching everyone that passed by our table. So that's what it took. And once they sat down and played it, they were so glad. A lot of people said, "Hey, I'm so glad you stopped me to play this." So, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think one thing, it may sound like we're just going out and reaching out to people and kind of pulling them in, and which we were. But I think the other thing, as we did this, we realized, just playing with people that we didn't know and seeing the joy from them and kind of also becoming friends with people, tons of people over the conference, I think was an awesome experience. And I think Dave and I both, we're excited. Hopefully once conferences start opening back up again, it's let's continue doing that and kind of building the word for Bottom Up.
Totally agree. I mean, I would say quickly that board games, I mean, it's a labor of love. The greatest fulfillment that we derive is when people get joy from playing your game. So that's it. I mean, that's really what excites us.
Yeah, that's why I play board games too, right? If I'm having kind of a bad day, I go and I'm like, hey, to my wife, like, hey, let's play a board game, and we just sit down and we just play a board game like in the middle of the day, right? Just to pick up our spirits. So I totally get that. And so you were talking about these surveys that you sent out for people new to kind of tabletop space and play testing. Can you tell us more about what you included in those questions and how you kind of got this information? Was it like paper and pen? Was it through an iPad? Like, can you talk us through kind of logistics there too?
Yeah, for sure. I think I think some of the things, the most important thing for us for this survey was really we wanted to know if people, we knew with ourselves and with our family when we tested it that it we thought it was fun, but we really wanted to make sure that when we played with other people that they had the same experience. And so some of the questions we asked was like, would you play again? And we got really high marks on that. And then we also asked them, how would you rate the game? What are some areas that you felt like could be improved? And what are some of your biggest complaints about the game? And we wanted to hear from people and get their honest feedback, really for us to know, to really have an objective view of, hey, is this game actually as fun as it seems? Ultimately, that's where we wanted to get to.
Yeah. So there's those questions, and then we asked, would you recommend to a friend or family member? And then for the star rating was just out of 5. I think we got like 4.3, 489 survey respondents. So this was way beyond just friends and family at that point. Like a lot of strangers within the data set. But yeah, logistically, we basically we bought a laptop to all the cons and handed a laptop after the play testing to them, and they filled it out.
There was one more question we also asked I thought was really good, which was this may be a little bit also or edgy, but we asked people how much they thought how much they would pay for the game too, and to get an idea of how much could we potentially charge for the game.
Ooh, yeah, that's a really great question to ask, especially in like kind of the research and kind of preparation phase. Did you end up kind of taking the average of that and pricing the game that way, or how did you end up pricing the game from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for us, a lot of the games that we played and tested so far was actually with our very, very beta or like our beta version of the game, which had a lot of pieces that were just printed on paper. And through that, I think we found that people were willing to pay like $20 $25 for the game mostly. And so yeah, I think when we decided to put the game together and talk with our manufacturers, we really wanted to kind of make higher level quality of pieces for the game. And so we ended up with 30 mostly because we felt like with after getting the box ourselves and seeing all the materials and seeing the high quality of pieces, we felt like people would be excited to get something like this. So we ultimately priced it at 30 instead.
Yeah, and the reason why we want the pieces of very thick stock and quality as we can is because there's a part of our marketing strategy to market by the vote to schools. One of the key reasons why we picked the election theme is because we had met with educators who talked about the challenge of teaching what we think one of the most important civics lessons, which is voting, to students, because it's either a boring topic or kids hear from parents that's a very taboo topic, so they just maybe tune out. So By the Vote is this quick, fast, engaging way for kids to play. And when we play with kids, boy, they play again, 6 or 7 times straight. So happy to delve into there too.
Yeah, let's talk about the theme, right? Let's talk about the politics, right? You mentioned earlier that it was kind of an uphill battle. How so, and how did you kind of get around that?
It was definitely, look, open kimono. That theme was a ding a headwind for the Kickstarter for sure. I think we were looking for examples of successful politics games. I think there were few, and so it was an uphill battle. So we basically got it funded on the merit of how fun and the mechanics of the game. If we were to do it again, and we were trying to maximize, quote unquote, the dollars raised for Kickstarter, we should have done it with puppies and kittens and the same kind of game mechanic or something, just rebranded that way. But like I said, we have this real social mission that we care about to help educators teach the basics of the U.S. election system to students. So that's why we did what we did.
Got it. Yeah, you mentioned that you were the political part is like the hard part, right? And then you were funding pretty much because the mechanic and the gameplay of it. How did you talk about it with your audience? Was your audience more leaning towards, hey, I love the politics part of the game, or was your audience more like, hey, I love the mechanics and how the game plays? Or is it two different audiences that you were talking to? Or were they one and the same?
No, that's look at that. That's like a perfect 10 question. Let me try to give a perfect 10 answer. Let me break it down by this. So, of our 700 backers, maybe 50 to 75 came from that, 500 survey email database that we did. And then maybe another 50 or 100 was friends and family, let's call it. Then I think another 50, 100 probably who like the theme, politics. So, there are people who like the theme, and the rest is just Kickstarter kind of algorithm, people just seeing it funded and et cetera, and discovery through natural Kickstarter. So the way we specifically messaged it was you have it spot on. There's a message that this is a political game that you may enjoy, but this is also a fun game that appeals to a number of audiences that Justin can talk about. So it was those two separate messaging that we went after.
Yeah, I think when we thought about, and also when we thought about the game and it kind of played with people, I think there's definitely like different kinds of segments I would think about. I think there's, there's definitely this kind of like heavy board gamer kind of group, which probably don't care about politics as much, but they kind of see our game as a filler game that they can play, between your rounds of Gloomhaven or your rounds of Scythe or something. And I think for them, when we thought about marketing to them, it was really just, hey, it's a filler game. You can play for 15 minutes. fun while you're waiting for your pizza, while you're, a game that you can also play in conjunction with Q kind of thing. And then there was, I think, what we also noticed when we went to, kind of bigger conventions like PAX East. We found that there was a group of, very casual kind of gamers that came around and, saw By the Vote and was like, oh, this is interesting. It's a political year. Politics is kind of interesting. It's 15 minutes. Oh, that's really cool. And that kind of casual gamer, it was really kind of our biggest group that we're trying to go after. And we found a lot of success with that kind of demographic, with people that are kind of interested in politics, and kind of looking for some quick game to play. And then I think there's like this other group that's not necessarily interested in politics, but they like board games. And I think when they kind of play our game, they realize, hey, this is a really fun and interesting way that kind of pokes a little bit of fun of politics, and in the electoral college, and they have a lot of fun with it because it's it's a kind of bidding game where you can where like a lot of things happen at once, and there's this exciting reveal that happens constantly throughout the game. That when we tested with a lot of my friends that don't play board games or play just a couple of board games here and there, it also tested really well in our surveys. And so I would say those are probably like our three kind of segments we've been kind of approaching it, or at least thinking about. But yeah, like I think everything that Dave said about our Kickstarters is totally true as well.
Yeah, Nalin, I mean, why do you think, given your deep experience of seeing so many Kickstarter campaigns, that it's political election games just don't really work on Kickstarter? I have an answer, but would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, actually, I think I've seen this question be asked before somewhere too, and I responded, like to see like, hey, why is like a political game not something that people want to play? And I think my response to that was that, one, it sometimes is too real. Sometimes it's way too real. People just really play games to kind of escape reality. So, for example, things are happening now, even in the local U.S. landscape. People are playing games to kind of escape that particular kind of mess, and to kind of put it lightly. Another thing that I also brought up was that people really like to go into really crazy, fantastical worlds when they play games, right? Like you brought up Scythe earlier. It's not of this world in a way, right? There's terraforming Mars that going to literally different planet, right? There's all these games where you're kind of immersing yourself into a theme that takes you out of what you're focused on and seeing every day in life. That's kind of my perspective on it. What kind of things did you find in your research? I'd be really curious.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, especially for the Kickstarter community, for board game backers. I mean, it's more hardcore, I would say. I think the theme within itself, it has the potential to ruin game night. I think I'm saying what you're saying a different way. Because if you play a game that kind of delves into the politics, it could maybe start conversations that could get testy, and then all of a sudden we're not playing board games. And so what we try to do is we try to graze the issues, and it's really nonpartisan. There's no issues at discussed, and we're not taking a stance. And we were very careful about it during our marketing. We were careful not to affiliate ourselves with any view or issue or matter. That's not the point of this. The point is to bring to light that there's this election system, and hopefully our goal is to get people to vote, increase voter participation. Because last time in 2016, I think it was like only 56%, which is kind of a joke for a leading democracy of the world. So. But yeah, that potential to ruin game night is really what someone said to me that really stood out. And some of the other political games try to get too deep into the issues maybe, or allow that to happen. And I think that's the pitfall.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. And Justin, do you want to say something too? Sorry.
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, I think everything you mentioned totally makes sense, and we've had some gamers say that exact same thing actually, where it's it feels a little bit too or when they see our game, their immediate response is, man, this like seems a little bit too real. I think I'm gonna pass. And and I think there has been people that also have checked out our game, even though they're a little bit less inclined to in the beginning. And really, like what Dave said, By the Vote is not we're not like digging into the like all the political issues or anything like that. It's really just to kind of poke fun at the whole electoral system and how it's flawed and sways toward some large states and some other states don't really matter, and like swing states are really are really important, and it really pokes fun at the fact that you have a ton of money, and you're just like throwing and spending money on like advertising in these states in order to win it, and that's ultimately what we wanted to kind of poke fun at, for By the Vote. It really isn't like any other political messages or anything like that in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really love the kind of the underlying mission of the game is to kind of really educate people and then bring more people into understand what this all is about when we're doing this voting thing, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, you ended up funding despite kind of having a theme that people weren't sometimes too sure about, right? You funded really quickly too. How did you get people who were kind of on your list and people you've talked to? How did you get them to convert very quickly on launch day?
We individually message, like whether text message or Facebook message, direct messaging, individual, one-on-one. I what do you think, Justin? 5,000? We went bananas. We had a long campaign because we thought we were going to do that, but we just, like I said, I go back to the hustle. We just hustled. We just pounded people, reminded people, reached out to all, exhausted any list, phone book that we have on our, like, talk to friends we haven't talked to, reconnected with a lot of people. Anyway, that was a great thing about this experience. Reconnected with a lot of old friends. So just hustle.
Yeah, I think, totally. I think Dave and I probably messaged, yeah, like you said, actually messaged like 5,000 people. But I think for us, the reason why we, went down that path is because we noticed that the people that were most excited or like most interested in our game, I think sometimes it wasn't that hardcore kind of board gamer type of person, but rather kind of the casual gamer that isn't always on Kickstarter necessarily. Yeah. But when we messaged them about the game and said, hey, here's this game, we created called By the Vote, they would see the title. It's kind of a catchy, edgy title. I think that made them very excited about just checking out the game, checking out our Kickstarter, and seeing all our content and being like, hey, this is interesting, and we want to be a backer for the first time. Sometimes, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, if Kickstarter is listening to this podcast, I'm sure someone from Kickstarter will. You're welcome. We introduced 300 or so new Kickstarter first timers ever, or something like that. So.
That's really good to hear. And wow, 5,000 people. I don't think a lot of people can say that they individually messaged that many people to talk about their game. So kudos to you for bringing the hustle.
Yeah, because the conversion from our survey 500 was what did I say? It was 10 to 20% tops. And then family obviously converts, but you only have so much family. And then for all the other messaging, the conversions 1%, and if it's 3%, it's we're high-fiving each other. So so we have 700 something backers. You can do the math of how many people you have to reach out to get that number of backers.
Awesome. So throughout this whole entire process, from like when you're beginning creating the game to like now, like what do you think was the most effective like marketing method throughout the campaign?
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say if we had the opportunity to kind of do all this over, I think continue going to conferences is definitely, I think for us was the most important, because when we thought of like what Dave was mentioning about that conversion rate, that was definitely our highest conversion, and to be honest, it was probably the most fun for us too, because we were kind of able to go out there, meet people, play with people, create new fans of the game, and that was just a really exciting experience. And then I think going on to the sort of next thing, I think just reaching out to people individually, continuing to hustle during your Kickstarter, keep messaging people, and really knowing your product and like who responds most to this, the type of game that you're making. If it's a deep and heavy game, then you should try to reach out to those kinds of people. And for us, it was reaching out to people that don't necessarily play games that much, and we saw a lot of more success with that. And then I think we also tried all that Facebook and Google advertising, but like what Dave was saying, the conversion on that was really low, like 1% or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're first timers. We're no name, right? No one knows us, and we have this political theme. So we decided to try it all. I think we spent, I want to say $1,500 on marketing of various forms. So that includes Facebook, Instagram. Twitter blocked us because we were political theme tags, so election theme tag. Even though we're board games, they still blocked us. They didn't allow us to. We did Google, of course, AdWords. We tried to do TikTok, but so we tried it all, and we did Board Game Geek, Dice Tower. The one thing we didn't do that I think if we did it over again that we should have done more is maybe some of the bigger YouTube reviewers. We did our own individual reach out to smaller following YouTube reviewers on Facebook and got like 8 of them. But maybe we should have paid up to get someone big to do a YouTube, but those are really expensive. And you have to plan ahead of time, like probably a month or 2 before your Kickstarter launches, because that's how backed up they are. So maybe people out there listening, maybe you should become a YouTube board game reviewer. There's money there.
All right. Well, thank you for just, coming on the show and just sharing all these insights with us. If people want to learn more about the game or get a copy of the game or just kind of get in touch with you both, like where should they head to?
Go ahead, Justin.
Definitely buythevotegame.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We're all there, Buy the Vote Game. So definitely come find us.
Yeah, we are taking pre-orders. So www.buythevotegame.com or CooziesGames.com. But either of those will take you for pre-orders. We've been actually up in the twilight hours, coordinating logistics to get our game, trying to get it to people in November. And so our game is looking like we can ship it in November. So pre-order while you can, while supplies last, for the special limited edition copy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Nalin. This was very enjoyable.
And that wraps up our episode today. If you found what we talked about today helpful in any way, please be sure to leave a review to help others find this podcast. And most importantly, if you're feeling that fire and you're ready to get started on your Kickstarter campaign, be sure to head to the show notes of the podcast. I've linked some of my resources that others have used to successfully launch and get funded. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. For daily tips and advice, find us in the Board Game Marketing group on Facebook. See you next week.